oh, I've had sex with this person that I'm friends with. Like, cool, I've had sex with some of my friends too. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it is not a big deal, but we make it a big deal by not saying things.
Exactly. And it becomes a big deal when we find out.
If you're ever getting into a relationship with a person, if you already start to keep things back at that point in time, you just A, don't know if it's going to trip you up going forwards, but B, like, you're not using this to build trust and build transparency and build open communication in your relationship.
The more you are transparent to each other, the more you actually understand who you are. You can't expect transparency from your partner, but you have to trust your partner that he or she is transparent. To be transparent is a choice. No one can force you to be transparent. You have to want to be transparent.
Love doesn't need to be shit.
Your podcast on how to create a healthy relationship with Evie and Ben. Welcome to another episode of Love Doesn't Need to Be Shit.
Yeah.
Why do you say yeah here?
Just because we had a bit of an English lesson this morning on the difference between need to and have to.
Because this man just said in the last episode it doesn't have to be
Was
shit.
it just the last one? I thought you'd been doing it for a while.
Do you think so?
Yeah, I think since the second episode.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so what we figured out is that I said that our podcast name on air is Love Doesn't Have to Be Shit, but apparently it's Love Doesn't Need to Be Shit. And the difference is, for any English pros or grammar Nazis out there, have to is a obligation and need to is a requirement. So you have to keep it a secret, but you need to brush your teeth.
Good examples, love.
Good. But today it's not about brushing your teeth. Well, kind of is. Or keeping it a secret. Kind of isn't. It's all about transparency. So it's the exact opposite of keeping it a secret, isn't it?
Correct. Well done.
But it is kind of brushing your teeth because it should be just as regular as brushing your teeth.
Even more so.
Right?
I think so.
Okay.
Especially if we go by how often you brush your teeth.
3 times a day. You should.
Yeah, I swear you used to brush them like once a day. No. Anyway.
So today is about transparency. But what do we mean when we talk about transparency? Let me give you an example here. Last year, I was traveling to Nicaragua just right after I met you. And I went to Nicaragua to surf. Went there for 2 weeks, and coincidentally, a friend of mine from Switzerland also went to Nicaragua, to the exact same place where I was, to surf with her friend. Well, that's not a problem itself, is it? No.
No.
Right.
Surf in whatever oceans you like, darling.
Exactly. But thing is that I used to have sex with this friend. So when I was still in Zurich, we used to hang out with each other in a very relaxed way, and we used to have a thing with each other. It wasn't a relationship. It wasn't about love, but it was just a nice time we spent together.
More like friends with benefits.
More like friends with benefits.
Or like a bit more.
No, more like friends with benefits, yeah. But like absolutely sound person. Like I really like her. I respect her very much, but there is no feelings attached to it. Whereas these two parts are itself not a problem, right? So why would it be a problem? Because for me, that's done. So I know you. I know that I want to build a relationship with you, and at the same time, this friend is coming over to the exact same spot. Whereas I know absolutely no harm, because what has been is in the past. So easy. What do I do? Is there actually a need to tell you? What do you think?
Honestly, like, if you look at it just from that point of view, like, do I need to tell this person? It's like, no, like, nothing's ever going to come of this. It's not a problem.
Right.
But in reality, it's like, I mean, obviously since like I've met this friend as well, and if you're ever getting into a relationship with a person, if you already start to keep things back at that point in time, you just A, don't know if it's going to trip you up going forwards, but B, like, you're not using this to build trust and build transparency and build open communication in your relationship.
Well, yeah, that's the long answer. The short answer I expected from you was no. Absolutely not. You should definitely tell the other person what has happened between you, because at some point this past will get you for some reason or another. And usually what happens is it's not going to be a fun, easy situation where this past event will get you. No. It's going to be at the worst possible timing, and you have absolutely zero possibility to explain why you didn't tell it.
But I also think that that's such a funny, like, such an interesting mindset of like, oh, well, I'm going to tell this person because this past event will get me. And it's like, I agree, like, this is what I said is like one of the reasons why you should tell someone these things. But it's like, isn't it crazy that this is the society that we've been brought up in the way that we perceive relationships is like, we feel uncomfortable telling someone something because we're scared as to how they might react or whatever. And then we're also like, okay, well, like, maybe I should tell them in case they find out at some point. But actually, like, we should be telling each other these things because we're like, no, I'm with this person. I trust this person. I want them to know things about my life. And I'm going to handle whatever consequences come my way, because that's really how you actually build a stable, long-term, trusting, wholesome, whatever words you want to use, a good relationship. But it's like, even in our sentiments, the way we're discussing this now, you realize that actually, like, fuck me, transparency is still so overlooked, because it's like that idea of being in your 20s where it's like, oh, don't tell her, bro, like, she never needs to know.
Exactly. And what did I do?
You told me.
I told you. Yeah, exactly. So I mean, I stood my man. Nah, I want to come away from these archaic expressions, but I just faced the music. It's uncomfortable, to be honest. Like,
but also,
it's uncomfortable to tell your partner that you will just meet a friend that you used to have sex with, whereas now there's absolutely zero possibility, or like, basically your partner doesn't have to worry about that anything happens.
So why was this uncomfortable for you?
Because I didn't want to hurt your feelings. Also, you always fear of repercussions.
So why would you think it would hurt my feelings or there'd be repercussions?
Because when you tell someone something uncomfortable, there's a possibility that this person is shocked about what you did, and therefore doesn't like you anymore. Like, that's the easy explanation.
Like, this girl's going to be so pissed that I had sex before in my life and she won't like me anymore.
I know it's not true, but essentially, yes, exactly. So you're like, oh, but if I tell her, she won't like me anymore. Or she'd be like, who is this dude? You know, something like that. So that's the uncomfortable part of it. Like, something in myself makes me feel uncomfortable telling you these things.
Which I totally understand. And it's like, it's such an interesting thing, because even if I did react like that, like, even if that's how I felt, then this is why transparency is so important, because, like, well, what does that mean for your relationship? If the person that you're with, even though, well, technically we were kind of in a relationship at that point, maybe you'd called me your girlfriend.
Maybe.
But, like, if at that point in time I had a negative reaction towards that, then it's two things. It's like, you have to work out if you can address that as a couple and move forward and make your relationship better, or B, you realize that actually like this isn't the relationship that either of you should be in if you can't overcome these kind of things. So it's like we're so scared to do it because we're scared of the consequences, but actually like if you're not able to do that, you're entering into a relationship that is probably not going to work for you. So it's better to figure that out sooner rather than later and just kind of like, this is my attitude to these things now, face the music and see what happens.
All right, let me start at the beginning here. You touched on a lot of topics I also want to touch on later on, but let me ask you, why did I do it? So why did I actually tell you? Why did I overcome my fear and my rather negative attached feeling and face the music and told you and was transparent to you?
I can guess. Do you want me to guess?
Yes, I would like you to guess, but go on.
A, B, C. Like, you think, obviously, I know that you think transparency is a super important cornerstone of a relationship.
Why?
Because it makes such a difference as to how you perceive each other and get to do everything going forwards. And for you, you need to be transparent so you don't feel trapped.
Yeah. And the opposite of feeling trapped is feeling trusted. Which is why I think transparency is crucial to build trust. So if you are transparent to each other, you start to gain trust and build trust. Just as we've learned in the first episode, trust is not just, it's never done. Like trust is ongoing work.
Yeah.
It's always work in progress, but you have different levels of trust. So you have you start with some sort of medium trust. And if you work on trust, you trust each other more. Or if you don't work on trust and you lie to each other, you do malicious things to each other, you obviously have a lower level of trust. So, and being transparent is one of these tools to leverage trust. So you are able to trust your partner more, which is why I told you, essentially, because I wanted to build trust with you.
Yeah, and it works both ways. It's like, I feel like you could trust me more because you're like, okay, these fears that I had about this person and how they might react, like, I trust that she's not going to behave that way. And I could trust you more because I'm like, cool. Like, if you just told me you're meeting a friend, like, sometimes that's when you can start to think more like, oh, just a friend or what's going on here. Whereas it's like, cool, like, I know he's going to tell me these things. So actually, I feel like it wasn't the most comfortable scenario. But I'm like, okay, we're going to have to go with this.
Exactly. So it's always a twofold. It's I trust you that you understand, and I trust you that you trust me that I'm not a bad person.
Yeah.
So it's like this two-point or two-way kind of stage.
Yeah. And I think what helped in that scenario from the transparency point of view was that I also felt like I could express how I felt and also ask you questions so that I was getting all of the information and all of the answers that I needed to then help go forwards, which is like, it's not just a one and done. Like, if you're going to be transparent and you're going to tell someone something, you have to be able to listen to their response and also work out what you both need.
Exactly. And just as you said, the more you share, the more you understand. So that's highly advantageous in a relationship. So the more you are transparent to each other, the more you actually understand who you are, so you understand more like who am I, and I understand in your reactions or in your transparency to me who you are. So that's always like a different angle and another point that helps a lot to build a relationship. I in my notes for this episode, I wrote down, when you start to be transparent, you start to create a future together.
You're so cheesy sometimes.
Guys, community question. When was the last time you shared something uncomfortable with your partner, but you did it because you knew it was the right thing and you just wanted to be transparent about it? Let us know in the comments. As always, we're interested to hear about your experiences. another thing.
I feel like you're getting really nervous right now.
No. I don't feel nervous.
Like, what's he gonna tell me?
Yeah, like, oh, is he gonna be transparent?
Yeah, we're dropping a transparency bomb live.
So, transparency, all good and well, right? But how transparent should you be in a relationship?
No, I think you should be transparent about everything. I don't think there's anything that's off limits.
Yeah, I think so too. Because once you start, you should once you start, you should always be transparent.
Yeah.
Like, don't make any exceptions or excuses. It's like, I feel like it's like any other thing you commit to. When you start to make exceptions, it becomes the new normal. It's like, yeah, I quit smoking, but you know, for New Year's Eve, I make an exception. But for my birthday, I make an exception. But for my summer holidays, I make an exception. Then the sooner you know, you're back on smoking. So it's like, no, you commit, no exceptions. Like, it's very uncomfortable sometimes, but it really helps. At least I felt like it helped our relationship a lot when we started to build up our relationship. We told each other everything.
Yeah, and I would say that, like, this wasn't even something that I went in explicitly committing to. I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to start this new relationship. I'm going to be super transparent. Like, I knew it was super important to me. I knew it was one of the things that I valued from having a relationship. And I knew that it would help me build trust and overcome things. But, like, I feel like because you did it and you set such an example, and, like, the things that you tell me, I'd be like, so often we're scared about these things, and actually, if you think about it in reality, anything you tell me, like, oh, I've had sex with this person that I'm friends with, like, cool, I've had sex with some of my friends too, like, do you know what I mean? Like, it is not a big deal, but we make it a big deal by not saying things.
Exactly. And it becomes a big deal when we find out.
Yeah,
because this is when we feel lied to.
Exactly. Or we feel out of the loop. And I feel like this is such an important thing in a relationship, is like, I don't want to know everything about you in terms of I want to stalk you and control your life, but like I want to know everything about you so I can learn who you are as a person as much as possible, so I can work out what your preferences are and how you interact, which doesn't mean that I say, well, then you can't see your friend. It means that I say, cool, like I support you as a partner, and like I respect the fact you're friends with this person because I truly trust you, because I know that you tell me everything and I feel part of the loop.
I think that's an important part of it. Like, you can't expect transparency from your partner, but you have to trust your partner that he or she is transparent. So, and transparency, to be transparent, is a choice. So no one can force you to be transparent. You have to want to be transparent to your partner. So it's not like, I want you to be transparent now to me.
That's never going to work.
Good luck with that.
That's when you already don't have the trust and you already don't think it's going to happen.
Exactly. Like, this is not the right.
But I feel like the way that it worked for us was because you started being so transparent that I was like, okay, like I can be super transparent then. Whereas especially I think when we first started dating at that in-between phase, when we weren't together all the time.
Leading by example.
But there were easily things that we could have both shied away from telling each other, which actually I feel like brought us closer together, because we were like, yeah, cool, me too.
Exactly. Like, usually what happened was when we shared things with each other that were rather uncomfortable, usually we ended up feeling much more connected to each other. Just as Evie said, like, usually it was that, oh, you got that feeling too? Oh, wow. Because we should never forget that at the end of the day, we're all just human beings. Like, usually we all go more or less through the same bullshit.
Yeah.
But yeah, once you start telling each other everything and not holding back, you can truly start building up your relationship. And like you said, the advantages of being transparent are you save time, especially at the beginning of a relationship. Or,
if you just say, actually, do you know what? Fuck it, this isn't going to work.
This isn't going to work. Or you're just transparent with your with your thoughts, desires, with your values. If you're transparent with your values, your partner has always, and this is also another important thing, your partner has always the option of reacting to it. So if you're not transparent, you essentially don't give your partner the option to react to who you are or what you do or what you say. But when you do, like, you're like, look, it's not like I'm not taking any responsibility. I'm always responsible for my actions. But because we are in a relationship, it's the we now. I'm doing this, but I'm telling you I'm doing this or I did that. So now it's on you to decide how you take that, or if you take it at all.
Yes, I agree. I think that's super important. And I think it's also such a good exercise for you to, like, being in a relationship, you can learn so much about yourself. So if you would tell me something like, I'm going to go see my friend and like I had sex with her before, and I'm like, okay, I feel triggered here, like I don't feel comfortable, then I can ask myself, like, well, why is that? Like, that's not necessarily anything that you've done. So why do I feel that way? Like, what beliefs do I have, or what like reactions am I having in my nervous system that I need to deal with? But also then I have the opportunity to ask you for support. Like, okay, cool, that's great, but like, please just let me know when you're hanging out, or like, it'd be great to hear from you afterwards, or like, I'd like to know more about your conversations and your chats, so I'm not like making up stories in my own head. So the more transparency for me, the better. But it's like, that's my space to tell you what you need, what I need, etc., etc. But this will only work if you, as the person that's being transparent, like, can tell someone something and listen to the reaction and want to support them through that. It's not just like, I'm doing this thing, like, fuck you.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, it's basically like you can't just
drop a bomb and walk away.
Exactly. You can't just drop in and be like, no, I did my part. No. You're not over it. It's not. It's like all of these people that say, oh, I'm having an open relationship now because I said so. No. Like that. That's not how it works.
Yeah, like, that's a recipe for a toxic disaster. But It's like, oh, I don't need to take any responsibility because I said this.
Exactly. No, it's about, I told you, so now the ball is on your pitch. But it doesn't mean the ball doesn't come back to my pitch. I'm expecting the ball to come back, kind of.
Yeah, and like, I don't know, sometimes you phrase these things and to me they feel really blunt, even when you say it to me. It's like, I see it more as like, it's not like I've given this to you.
No, it's back and forth.
Not even a back and forth. It's like, this is still ours.
How do you mean?
Like, you tell me something, that's still ours as an us to play with. That's ours to work out how we move forward. Like, yes, I need to do my part in that. But it's not like you tell me something, then it's just totally on me. And then it totally goes back to you. I can't think of another analogy than like a ball being in each pitch. But it's like, we have to work together.
But I know.
Like, I know what you mean. That's what I mean. Like, I totally know what you mean. I just mean, like, when you say these things, even to me that knows this, it still sounds super blunt. Like, I still have to be like, love, can I just check that, like, you're not just like totally saying that's your problem, now deal with it.
Exactly. Which is why I said before, like, you can't give away the responsibility. So the responsibility is still yours, but you give your partner the opportunity to take responsibility
and the opportunity to be involved.
Yeah, which is part of taking responsibility, in my opinion.
But this is how I'd see it. It's like, not necessarily passing it over. It's like, by being transparent, it's saying like, here's a thing that's important to me in my life. I want you to be part of that.
Exactly. I don't mean passing it over. I mean more like I share it. So there's like my responsibility. Like, my action is my responsibility, but your reaction is your responsibility. Like, I still own my own responsibility. That's not going to change. But because I share, you get the chance to look at it, to define how you think about it, and to take action to it, and be like, oh, okay, so you told me that you're gonna see your friend you had sex with. It makes me rather uncomfortable, so I don't mind, but I would like you to keep me in the loop. So it's like it's still my responsibility because I'll see my friend. I had sex with that friend. But you look at it and you take your responsibility on your reaction. You'll be like, oh, look, like, that's your thing. But this is how I take responsibility in how to react to it.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's like on kind of not back on you, but it's like that whole, okay, cool, like I'm happy to do that, or like I'm not.
Exactly. But you give the chance, which is coming back to you, an essential part in involving and creating a future together.
Yeah, and I also think that's interesting when it's like what you were saying earlier about like, oh, I was scared about telling you these things. And we have so much fear about telling the person this thing. Like we're not giving them the responsibility to react and when the opportunity to react. And we're not bringing them in for them to be comfortable with things and see how they feel. And actually like 9 times out of 10, actually like in our case, probably 10 times out of 10, maybe 9 times out of 10, it's like the reaction is not as bad as what you're expecting.
At least the immediate reaction. Essentially, like after a bit of time, like sometimes things can get heated, but after they cool down, like, and when you look at it again, usually what happened between us when we share things, uncomfortable things, big topics, we could talk about it and continue to work on them.
Yeah. Which is far better. Like this is the issue that I've had in the past is like making up those narratives and second guessing everything and not being sure or not having the answers or not being able to have those conversations. And like for me to become so much more secure, this has been like transformational. Isn't
it? Like once you know what you're on, what you're at, like if you have it gives you safety, gives you security, gives you a safe space within that relationship. And it's not about like, but yeah, I don't know, but I'm also too afraid to ask, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, I feel like in like my 20s, at least, and across everyone else that I know, people used to expect that like the perfect relationship would be this guy that wants to do everything for you, that's obsessed with you, that would like never look at another woman, that's like you don't want to ever think about the fact that they've had a past. It's like you're just being in denial about all of these things that aren't realistic and aren't reality, and they're also not a reflection of yourself as someone else that's been dating people before. And it's like, no, that's not what you actually want. What you actually want is this person that can make you feel loved and cared for and supported and listen to your needs and communicate everything with you anyway.
Being transparent, all good and nice, right?
No, not always. Like, it's the nice thing to do. It's probably one of the best things for your relationship, but one of the most uncomfortable, or like you have to do the work.
Which is... yeah, exactly. So you have to do the work, and being transparent usually involves the other person to be honest as well. You know, so you can't be transparent to someone that doesn't accept this transparency, but is in denial of reality, so to say. Like, I love to take Americans for this example. Sorry to every American out there. But as far as I've got to know Americans, they're usually oblivious to the reality of the relationships. So it's like, no, everything's perfectly fine. We love each other. We have the best marriage, you know, stuff like that. Whereas if they were transparent to each other, it would more sound like, like, we have a solid marriage. It works out, but it's not easy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I don't even think it's necessarily it's not easy part. Like, I would say, like, yes, I have been facing like a lot of things in our relationship. Like, the transparency brings up so many like triggers, so many like things that I've had to work through, but therefore like now I think our relationship is easier than any other relationship that I've been in, because we've worked out how to communicate with each other. Like, we know stuff about each other. Like, yes, I agree with the American example. Like, it's not like, oh, I'm just gonna pretend that our relationship's absolutely perfect and super rosy. Like, no, like we have stuff that upsets us both quite often because we're always facing up to things, but that's what you have to do in a relationship and as a person if you actually want to grow.
Yeah. The thing you said about your past, about your past issues, the person you are, I think is very powerful, because transparency is hard work, yes, but once you commit to it and work on it, you can also not only start on your relationship but on yourself. So by telling each other everything, you also have to untangle all your like past issues and look at it and be like, yeah, but why do I feel weird about this or that, or why does it upset me when my partner tells me this or that? Like, what you, from both sides, so from you as the person that is transparent, or you as the person that receives the transparency from your partner. I always found that super interesting to reflect on myself.
Mm-hmm.
What tips would you give to our listeners and viewers out there in order to be more transparent? Because I mean, we've said it so many times in this podcast. I feel like not easy at all. So, what tips do you have?
Do it right from the beginning. If you're not starting a new relationship, then start doing it as soon as you can. Like, just have this explicit conversation and say, like, hey, like, I'm not hiding anything from you, but I'd really like us to be super transparent about so many things. Like, and you can even start with small things. Like, some people don't have big things to talk about. Like, some people, like, have never had sex with anyone else before, like, whatever. But sometimes it's just the tiny things, like, I don't like this.
Yeah.
And you just, like, the more you start and you, like, start doing it, and you have this period of time where, like, you might have like 2 or 3 months of your relationship where you're like, this is shit, this isn't comfortable, like, why are we even together? Like, it genuinely can feel like that, because it's just like, fuck me, like, I just feel hurt and upset. But it's like nothing to do with your relationship. Really, most of the time it's to do with your past or external triggers or societal expectations or a million other things. So you have to, like, start with these small things, face the uncomfortableness. And the big thing that I would say is, make sure you're there to support each other. So, like we had the debate about before, it's not about saying something and passing it over. It's telling people, like your partner, something, because you want them to be able to see how they feel and react, so that you can build on that together. So you need to be able to do that. And this isn't necessarily a tip on how to be transparent, but you also absolutely shouldn't break any boundaries and be like, oh, but I've told you.
Exactly. So keep the, like, be aware that being transparent doesn't necessarily mean
doing whatever the fuck you want.
Do whatever the fuck you want, and that you're not being held responsible for your actions.
Yeah.
It's like transparency doesn't mean you're it's a free for all.
Yeah.
I have written down the same things basically. One is, don't only share big things, also share small things. And as per usual, start small, like start somewhere. Yeah, have an initial chat, and then just start and be like, and this is the way of communicating it, I think, is also important here. So once both agree to be more transparent to each other, or to be transparent to each other, keep in mind, once your partner is transparent to you, that your partner tells you these things with the best intention, and that your partner loves you and wants to support you and want to build a relationship with you. The partner does not tell you these things in order to hurt you, or in order to distance from you, because sometimes these things are very hard to hear. But that is very important to keep in mind, that it is about supporting and developing the relationship. And a last thing I have on a tip, aside from what you've already said, is help your partner to classify their thoughts. Your thoughts. All right. So
start again. What are your thoughts, honey?
all right. So a last tip from my side would be to help your partner to classify your thoughts. So if I tell you something, I'll be transparent about it. I'll be like, just thought about, let's say, thought about moving to the UK. What you think and what I think can differ. So help. You can be transparent as much as you like, but give more context to it. Give what help your partner to understand where you're going with that. So, because this could be a very good soil for false assumptions, which we tackle in another episode. So, when you're transparent, say, look, I had this and this thought. This is not an immediate thought. I just want to be transparent to you right now because I just had this thought and I wanted to let you know you don't have to do anything right now. It's just for me to make you aware of that. So the partner can classify this thought and is not just somewhere lost.
Yeah. And they can also ask those clarifying questions like,
yeah.
Okay, like when do you want to move to the UK?
Yeah.
Like why? What are your other options that you're trading off here? Like how certain are you of this?
Was this just a fleeting thought?
Yeah.
Is it actually set in stone?
Yeah.
Exactly. Like this is what I mean with the classifications.
Yeah.
Yeah. Community quest?
Yeah.
Do you have a community quest for our listeners and viewers?
I honestly think the biggest thing you can do is anytime over the next week, whenever that thought comes to your mind of like this thing that you're holding back from telling your partner, whether it's the fact that you don't want to have steak for dinner and you're too scared of upsetting their feelings because they want steak, or that you don't feel like going out to a restaurant that night, or if it's something bigger.
Or did you would prefer to stay at home on Saturday by yourself?
Yeah. Like, no, I don't want to come out with your friends. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Like, explain your reasons why. But anything that comes up like that you wouldn't normally tell them, give it a go.
Yeah.
Do it in a polite, respectful, caring way.
Tell your partner that you want to be transparent, that you still take the responsibility for your actions, which you should, but that you want to be transparent about it.
Yeah, you want to really let them know how you feel about a certain thing.
And that you're open for questions.
Yeah. And conversation.
Yeah. So what do you take away from today?
I can't remember what point you made at the end, but I was like, yeah, this is so true. When you were talking about the way that you should talk to someone and communicate it, but I literally can't remember what you said, but I was like, oh shit, yeah, like I forgot about this part and I see why that's super important.
Oof.
Yeah, what is wrong with my brain? So yeah, that part. It's not coming to me.
Let me help you there first. Okay. Let me give you some time to think. What I've learned from you today is that you see that you have a similar understanding of this ball pitch image, but slightly different, which is always interesting. I always think like even small differences can change a topic very much. So that's interesting for me to consider when we talk about transparency and me being transparent, so that when I tell you things, that it doesn't come along as if I would just pass you the ball into your pitch. Yeah. So that's one takeaway for me from today. I'm like, all right, yeah, that's definitely something I've learned from you.
This was the part you said when you said like when you want to be with your like transparent with your partner, it's because you want to bring the relationship closer. And like, this is something that took me a little while to discover when we were together. I was like, why is he telling me these things? Like, it just felt like you were trying to hurt my feelings and push me away. But actually you were doing it because you wanted to build a stronger relationship. And like, this is why the tennis ball or whatever example is so important, because it's like, I think the way that you express these things to your partner, like if you're just like, I think this, it's not inviting them in, it's not bringing them closer, it's not bringing them together. And I would say that's the one thing that, like, from my point of view, we could have done better at the start. So I think that point that you want to do this for the benefit of your relationship and you want to bring your partner in is super important to make explicit.
The reason why.
Yeah.
Fair play. What I've learned from our transparency episode today, when I just thought about it, because we always have to think about our topics as well when we prepare for them. So I realized how important transparency, or how much it is connected to responsibility. So being transparent doesn't make you or take the responsibility away from you, which is such a big and famous misconception, I feel like, because it feels so natural to be like, oh, but I told you. That's not my fault anymore. No. This is not how it works. So this is like a huge reminder to myself. I've already known this, but it's a good reminder. And I will try to be more aware of that again.
Good. Sounds perfect.
Cool. I think that's a wrap.
Yeah, we as per ever, we could go on for hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guys, as you've listened to the past few episodes, give us a like, give us a subscribe, share the vlogcast with your friends. If you have any topics you would like us to cover, let us know. Let us know how you like the episode so far. If there's anything we can drastically improve, lovely to hear. We're open for feedback. Be transparent. So yeah, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Yeah. Bye. I'm always the worst at this.
Honestly, I'm always waiting for you to actually say bye, but you just say goodbye with yeah.
Yeah, but I'm always I don't know what you want me to say. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Bye.
Something like that.
Have a great week.
Along
Enjoy
this line. Yeah, exactly. Be transparent, lads. Don't forget, like and subscribe, and be transparent.
Yeah.
Sweet. All right. Cheers, and see you next time.
But what is there for me to say after you've said all of that? Keep being transparent. There's nothing left to say.
Go on.
What?
I'll leave you. I'll let you go first.
No, I'm too shy.
Come on.